Yes, thank you all for coming to this press conference about the role of faith in shaping the relationship with nature. We are here from different faith traditions who are, for a long time, we have been working with the climate issues, also in the discussions that the UNFCCC have held for many years. We have thought that faith-based organization who is more and more attending the COPs, and we are not an official constituency like others, but still we have some significance, I would say, to these questions. And that is something that has grown over the year, especially when we see the stalemate that often happens during the COPs to see to actually move where we want to go there. Science is there, there is a movement for it, but still there are barriers for action. So we think that faith traditions can also have a kind of corrective to a development trajectory that will take humanity to a dead end. To know life on Earth as we know it today, we may not have it anymore. And what we call Mother Earth as our home, and we have to treat her with reverence as we enjoy the abundance of life that she creates. But the Earth system is also fragile and needs to be protected so that life can be shared by all people and passed down to following generations. So this is a kind of rather open press conference with some thoughts and different angles on this theme. So I would like to invite Valeriane Bernard from Brahma Kumaris to start with her thoughts and her inputs. The floor is yours.
Hello. Good morning, and thank you, Henrik. As part of the Brahma Kumaris, we have been working a lot with people on the ground in India who have been working with what we call yogic farming, meaning that they are actually practicing spirituality on the field. And there were some results with the scientific universities that studied what they did, and they could see the quality of the food they were producing. As Henrik was saying, Mother Earth is our home, but it is also beyond that what we are. My body is full of Mother Earth. And so how much do I respect it? So here within the UNFCCC, the faith groups have been connecting to try and bring the whole dimension of what values are actually needed now in order to find the right climate solutions to shape the climate action. We were in a dialogue yesterday, and we saw how much the value driving business, driving the kind of crisis we're having is definitely not a positive value in terms of everybody's life. So I think we are bringing the whole notion of the courage to think differently, the courage to act, the courage to change the way we live our lives on Earth, not only as individuals by choosing solutions like plant-based food or by choosing not to engage in violence in any way, but also we know that most countries and most people, like 80%, are driven or part of one faith or another. So how can we get people from the different governments, from the different ways and paths to connect in order to take the best solutions possible for our planet, for our brothers and sisters? So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Valeriane, for this. Hopefully we will get some questions also on that. Flore, the floor is yours, so to say.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. So I'd like to start my intervention with a quote from Nichiren Daishonin, who's a Buddhist monk from the 13th century. And he said, "The kalpa of decrease has its origin in the human heart. As the poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness gradually intensify, the lifespan of human beings gradually decreases and their stature diminishes." So I think that hearing that quote, we can react in two ways. Either we think that we're doomed, either we think that since the kalpa, so kalpa is a period of time, either we think that since the kalpa of decrease has its origin in the human heart, then the kalpa of human growth maybe will originate in the human heart as well. And I prefer the second option. And having said that, I'd like to offer a few perspectives as a youth of faith myself. First, I'd like to touch upon the importance of synergies. So, because faith is in itself synergistic and rights-based, our understanding of the environment and nature is also synergistic, because the starting point of Buddhism comes from the understanding of what we are, and there's this principle that is called Eshofuni, that means that self and the environment are two, but not two. And the environment mirrors what is going on in our lives, and our lives are deeply affected by what happens in the environment. So from this standpoint, biodiversity loss is not a problem out there. It is a symptom of something happening within individuals, within institutions, and within humanity. And climate change also doesn't happen in silos. It impacts every aspect of human life and nature. And so our work cannot happen in silos either. And this year is a 3-COP year. So we need better synergies. And this is being discussed in the cooperation agenda item also here at SB64. And it would be really important that we leave Bonn with a clear direction for this item and an ambition of really strengthening synergies between the different Rio conventions. There's a 4th technical information exchange organized under the mandate of the decision of COP16 of biodiversity that is also taking place this week in the margins of SB64, and it would be really great that the roadmap can lead to enhanced decision and policy coherence at biodiversity COP. So it's really important for nature, and it's very important to have these synergies enhancement grounded in a human rights-based approach as well. The second point that I wanted to touch upon is the importance of youth voices, and especially also youth of faith. Because everywhere in the world, what we've been witnessing is that youth are really shifting the narrative and old narratives, and that people of faith and young people of faith are really wondering, first, how their own faith can inform and reinforce their engagement in society, and how faith and religion can answer today's biggest challenges. And we as youth understand the deep interconnection between climate change, capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, militarism, extractivism, and a lot of other isms. And also, it's accompanied also with, we think, a loss of spirituality in a sense. But we know that in order to tackle those climate issues, we need to go deep and face the root causes of environmental degradation. And in those walls of negotiation, parties seem sometimes to still think that, for example, we can solve climate action while maintaining infinite growth, or that we can solve climate change without being accountable of historical responsibilities, and that maybe faith is not so relevant because we're being very technical here. But this cannot really happen, and as youth, we won't let it happen, and we will voice our concerns over and over, because tackling climate change really goes hand in hand with ending genocide, ending extractivism, and really reconnecting to our human nature. So I'd like to leave you there so that my colleagues can speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Flore. We go further with Illari from Christian Aid.
Yes, thank you, Henrik. Colleagues, I think we all know we're living very difficult times. The governments here at the conference represent different parts of the world. And we know they're facing multiple and overlapping pressures. We're talking about the impacts felt already by ordinary people as a result of the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about the pressures to deal with current climate impacts that are being felt by ordinary people on the ground. We think about, for instance, the dangerous level of heat experienced right now in India and across other parts of Asia. At the same time, we're talking about the pressures that many countries feel to prepare for a very powerful Niño event coming up in the following months. We know that these events require anticipatory action and support to deal with the aftermath. My own country, Peru, will be one of the most affected by the Niño event, and I know from experience a lot will need to be rebuilt, a lot will need to be reconstructed, and a lot of support will be needed for this. So the list of events and impacts goes on. So this conference taking place here in Bonn comes really at a critical moment, and I believe that if this process is to stand the test of time, it must really demonstrate that multilateral cooperation remains alive and that it is really capable of driving action meaningfully together to deal with these challenges and those challenges yet to come. The discussions in Bonn play, as we know, a critical role in shaping what is to come at COP. People here are negotiating decisions that might be or will be adopted at COP. So progress needs to be made here. And in this context, it is fundamental to reiterate that where all countries have a role to play in the fight against the climate crisis, responsibilities are simply not equal. Vulnerable countries where our organizations work have contributed very little to the climate crisis, and these countries need support right now to face the impacts. As faith-based organizations working to eradicate poverty in the world, like Christian Aid, we expect progress on climate finance to be a concrete outcome from this meeting. And why are we here talking about the climate crisis and really coming together to raise our voice on these issues? Because we're simply not on track to achieve the 1.5 target that is essential to keep the planet safe, as my colleagues have already said. And as we also know, for years, international climate negotiations have circled around the fossil fuel discussion without confronting the central challenge, which is about how to phase them out. At COP30 last year, we saw efforts to really tackle this structural cause, this structural reason fueling the climate crisis, but we also know that that didn't work. The political challenge around that was really difficult. However, earlier this year, we also saw steps and we also saw promise. We had the first global summit dedicated exclusively to discussion of phasing out fossil fuels. This meeting took place in Santa Marta. Many of us felt inspired by this landmark meeting, by this moment. And we didn't think that that conference was obviously gonna change situations overnight. It is a very, very complex discussion. But I felt that it was very powerful because it shifted the conversation. It shifted the conversation in a meaningful way. So it was no longer a question of whether we should really phase out fossil fuels, but it was more a question about how do we do that? And what do we need to put in place to really drive in that direction? So from that moment on, our expectation is also to build on that moment, to keep the momentum going. This conversation about tackling the structural cause of climate crisis needs to continue, and we need a movement for that. We need an interfaith community that speaks frankly about the root cause of the climate crisis and the need to advance meaningfully actions together in that pathway. We need to mobilize moral leadership, amplify solidarity, and inspire action at every level of society. Thank you.
Thank you, Illari. Last speaker now is Budi from Franciscan International. Please.
Thank you, Henrik. I would like to commend the messages that were said by my colleagues. And as we understand that now we are in a situation that is very difficult. So we are entering a period in which there is a climate instability, and the 1.5 degree threshold has been passed. We have also the intensifying climate impacts and growing human displacement. This crisis is unfolding alongside with geopolitical fragmentations, technological competitions, food insecurity, and shrinking civic space. Environmental human rights defenders and social justice advocates face increasing criminalizations and budget cuts, undermining our essential work. And with this backdrop, I would like to bring the need to have a moral and ethical lens in the current negotiation in SB64. We have to be grounded in what we call as integral ecology, as a faith framework that emphasizes the interconnectedness of humanity, nature, creation, as well as a moral responsibility. So we urge the parties negotiating now to recommit to multilateralism as both political necessity and moral duty. As well as faith communities, in particular from the Catholic perspective, I would like to recall the message of Pope Leo XIV to COP30, when he said that the climate change is endangering the life of everyone on this planet and therefore requires international cooperations and a cohesive and forward-looking multilateralism. So I'll touch two issues. The first is just transition mechanism that is currently being negotiated in SB64. I think just transition is very important. However, the mechanism that we are negotiating these weeks should be firmly rooted in human rights, human dignity, and care for the planet. And then there are some principles that we would like really to push. The first is the principle common but differentiated responsibilities, and that the polluter pays and bringing the reparative justice from the global north to the global south. There is also need to emphasize on the intergenerational equity and integral ecology that recognize the interconnectedness of all life and nature. And it is important also to have the principle of non-retrogressions and progressive realizations of rights and rejecting false solutions that has deepened the inequality. I think the second issue that is important that was mentioned by Illari is also the issue of the need and imperative need of the fossil fuel phase out. I think it's very important that we recognize the efforts done by some states in Santa Marta in April. I think it's very important. On the way forward, we have some key messages as the principle where we implement this phase out period for from the fossil fuels. The first is transparency and accountability. The roadmap must be practical, aligned also with the UNFCCC processes, and connected to multilateral efforts such as that was shown in Santa Marta. The second is on the issue of financial alignment. The global financial flows must shift decisively away from the fossil fuels toward renewable energy, climate resilience infrastructure, and sustainable development. This transition must not increase the debt burdens for developing countries. The next one is subsidiarity and inclusive participations. Access to information, participations in decision-making, and access to justice must be treated as rights. Faith communities and faith groups, indigenous peoples, smallholder farmers, women, youth, people with disabilities, and other marginalized groups must be fully included. Civil society engagement is both a legal obligation and a moral imperative. Lastly, the need to minimize the critical mineral demands. We urge that, especially to the negotiators, we urge them to prioritize sufficiency, circular economic approaches, responsible sourcing, and demand-side management to reduce reliance on primarily mineral extractions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all in the panel. As you can hear, this is a wide understanding of climate change. We have some and I think all of us embrace that this is also an ethical and an internal challenge, and we must also go to the root causes of why we have come to the situation that we are in today. And we also can hear that some of us are very clear in what we want to achieve, what we want these negotiations that the UNFCCC is still having, even if it's undermined by big governments who is withdrawing their support for multilateralism. I think that the faith communities is a key actor on this to understand the importance to find platforms that are multilateral, that represent the global community of people. So it's not, this is a synergy, as you said, the synergy between the heart, the ethical, the obligation to act, and also this, to the synergy of what we actually want to do, what we actually is moving for. So we had this Tjahjono dialogue at the start of this COP, of this SB64, and we used to have it at COP as well. And the final words from a message that we are sort of trying to craft now I think it says a bit about this. Climate change is not dividing people of faith, it's bringing them together. Despite the political polarization, a declining trust, climate justice is ultimately about relationships with one another and with future generations and the creation or Mother Earth. Building a broad interfaith movement grounded in justice, truth, care and hope, we see that as one of the most important tasks to do today when we see so much of other ways are coming to dead ends or to stalemates in discussions. So we want to contribute to move things forward. So I'll leave the floor open for anyone who wants to have questions for this brilliant panel. So you're welcome to raise your hand. Everything is crystal clear to everyone. Yeah, please. See if there is a mic somewhere. But the mic is gone. There it is.
There it is.
Thank you.
The basic reason for today's climate crisis is the human thinks that they are super being, endowed with a lot of power to control the earth. So from this, we need to move to another concept of situated anthropocentrism. That means human is important, but the human has to learn to live along with the other forms of life. Pope Francis in his Laudato Si has introduced this concept, situated anthropocentrism. Only when we aspire to live along with the other forms of life, ultimately we will be able to save this planet and the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your remark. Anyone who wants to comment on that? Okay, we have two more questions.
I would like to know that what role geoengineering play in this shaping the relationship with nature. Thank you.
We take the other question as well, so I think it's in the front.
Thank you. Thank you for this reflection. And I think you also have, the faith point of view has a responsibility also in communicating differently some precepts that usually were very anthropocentric. And many religions says, this world is for you, human being, the animals, the planet. And the promised land causes many troubles, and many of those precepts leaves behind many religions. It's for you, this land is for you, this animal, this. So we have to do something in order to preserve. Thank you for the reflection. Thank you for the organization.
Thank you. Any comments? Yeah, Flore?
Not on geoengineering.
Not on no one on geoengineering.
But I can respond. We do believe that, of course, we might have different opinion, but we believe that geoengineering is part of the false solutions because it's only shifting the problem to another part, but it's not addressing the root causes of the problem. So it's a technological solutions that is costly, and it is not proven if it really addresses the problem. But I think as faith communities, we all agree that it is important to address the root causes. Not through the false solution, and there are many other false solutions, especially from the business perspective. No? The issue is that climate crisis that we have, and also other crises, are often considered as business opportunity, in which this is anthropocentric, no? That it is an opportunity to get more wealth. But we are not, and we are shifting from this anthropocentric into a bit more holistic, and that's why one of the key issues that we are really considering now, which gain also more and more attention, is about the importance to talk about the right of nature, that our mother nature has a right, and it has to be recognized. There are some legal recognition in some places, including in Ecuador and some other places, that the nature is starting to be recognized to have a legal right. So it's not yet something that is internationally recognized, but I think we gained more and more understanding. So this is the way to shift from the anthropocentric way of looking at the situation now into more broader and more comprehensive.
Any other? Yeah.
Yes, we have been working very much at looking at what all these false solutions are promoting. And what we have seen is that it is only superficially trying to come up with a solution, but deep down it is often creating a worse problem. And the fact is very often that what is driving these false solutions is not a very respectful way to think about nature, but it is looking at it like, why don't you produce more and produce more so that we make more money? So I think that we have to move away from the way we look at things. But the way we look at things is something that is driven from very deep down inside of us. So that's why faith is really a good spot to start working. Not just the faith of a religion because it's a brand name, but the faith that each one has in its own heart.
Thank you. I think we are close to stop this session. We have one last short question.
Go ahead.
Can you be short?
Yeah.
The question can be short, the answer probably not.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, because it goes beyond this nature. Look, this is my first bond. I've only been at one COP. I'm a faith person myself. My question is, in your participation as faith organisations in these kind of things, what kind of movement have you seen? Sometimes I feel like we're just talking to the converted, so to speak, or talking to those already on board. What impact or has the interfaith work, presence of faith organisations made at these kind of events?
Very quickly, I think it would be the word of, because faith people are everywhere, faith people are also in constituencies and have been influencing in their own work negotiations. And so there's the interfaith work itself, but there are also how faith people are collaborating with other people and other constituencies and are participating in this broad civil society movement. And it's been moving. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.